Hello Internet, Lieutenant Ellis here with the 299 Scouts, Dangerous Skills for Dangerous Places, and I believe it's day 8 of lockdown. Honestly, I've lost track, to be honest with you. Some nights I end up just drinking with my buddies over Zoom. I can actually get more trashed over video chat than I ever would at a bar. I don't even know what day I'm supposed to be on. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to continue making these sequentially, making them when I can. Anyway, we had a question about angle shooting. So yesterday we gave you a practical exercise of how to range estimate. So the thing about range estimation is that, if you're flat in line with the target, that's exactly what you got. What you see is what you get. Unfortunately, if you're at any kind of angle, that's going to factor in a little bit in adjusting your range and the dope that you put on your gun. Now, how much does it matter? It depends. What they told us was shoot them in the dick, as in aim low. The reason behind that is what they talked about is the amount of times that you're going to be in a position where you're both going to have an extreme angle or the extreme range that's going to necessitate a huge shift in that range estimation, or a huge shift in your dope, are actually pretty rare. So think about it. If you're in a high-rise building, you might have that extreme angle, downward angle, in order to get that shot. But how much range can possibly get in a urban environment? I'm thinking about 200 meters if you're going to be shooting at a downward angle that's going to matter. Likewise, if I had a long range beyond 400 meters or so, not very many positions where I'd have both that long range and an extreme angle. So kind of is such a rarity that they didn't really harp on it too much at my sniper school. High school graduates, you might just say, all right, shoot them in the dick. Close is good enough, just kind of wing it. We're here to teach you a little bit beyond that, a little bit of graduate level. But hey, spoilers alert, I'm going to teach you the math, but I don't necessarily do the calculations on the fly. There's all kinds of cheats that you can use. Angle cosine indicator that just gives you the cosine you'll need to multiply your dope by. So I'm going to teach you the math, and then I'm going to tell you what you really need to know, and then I'm just going to be honest with you about what I actually do when it comes time to factoring in this angle. Basically, I let the calculator do the work for me. I recommend getting some sort of ballistic calculator like Applied Ballistics. Applied Ballistics is a fantastic app, and the full discussion about everything that Applied Ballistics does for you is going to take an entire another video. So I recommend getting a good ballistic solver. I recommend Applied Ballistics and not much else. In Applied Ballistics, you can incorporate the angle into your shot, and that's going to adjust your dope accordingly. Alright, so what are we talking about when we're talking about angle fire? So right now, my rifle is level, but even if I depress my barrel to about 15 degrees, we still consider that level. At 15 degrees, I've only got to multiply my flat line range by 0.97 or something like that. So that's really not that big of a deal. I say still, if you have a ballistic calculator, I say still factor it in, because let the ballistic solver do the work for you. It's not really until we get down into 25 degrees, 30 degrees, that we really start factoring in angle fire and start adding it to our flat line distance in order to make sure that we're compensating properly. Now people get confused now about why we're factoring this angle. I can tell you the complicated definition that makes you go, huh? And then I'll give you the simple way to think about it. So what you really have to think about is in terms of triangles. Remember opposite hypotenuse and adjacent angle of a triangle? The hypotenuse is being that angle trajectory straight on towards the target, straight line. Now, if you look at that triangle, you realize that's the longest distance of that triangle. Now, the distance that the projectile is actually being influenced by gravity, or the flat line distance that you need to calculate, is the adjacent, the side closest to the angle that's not the hypotenuse. And now that makes perfect sense though if you think about it. You look at a map, if you were to draw a line from your point of origin to the point of impact, that's the distance the route's going to be influenced by the gravity. And the way I can illustrate that makes sense to you is I got my rifle right here, right? So imagine I'm on my balcony, I'm on my sniper hide, and I've got to take a shot at somebody at the front door of my own building, right? And even though I'm 35 stories up in the air, or I'm in some huge skyscraper, I'm taking a shot all the way down at the guy at the front. What dope would I put on my rifle then? If your answer was 500 meters or whatever floor I'm on, you can tell that you're gonna miss. If I'm gonna take a shot at the guy right below me at my feet, I'm gonna put on zero dope. I'm just gonna straight line, and my bullet's gonna fall straight down onto the ground. That's because the distance that the round is actually being influenced by gravity is 0 feet. So, and now if I have it, now he's not at my front door anymore, but he's across the street. How much distance, even though I laze it or even though I do my mill relation formula and I calculate him out like at least 500 meters away, you know, but he's only across the street, what dope am I going to put on it? Am I going to put 500 meters, or I'm going to put the width of that street basically in meters? So you can see how angle fire starts to matter. The one that really fucks people up is that if I'm shooting down angle, I need to put less dope. I need to aim low in order to hit the target where I want to hit it. But if I'm aiming uphill, should I aim low or should I aim high? That's right, man. You gotta aim low. If that fucked you up, well, think about it. It's the same triangle question, that same opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse question. And if you're shooting up, all you have to worry about is that flat portion of the terrain that the round is actually being influenced by gravity. So it doesn't matter what that long edge, the hypotenuse of that triangle is doing, per se. All you're trying to calculate for is that flat line distance. Alright, I hope that made sense. Let's get into a little bit of the math. Alright, so in order to do this exercise, you're going to have to go back and you have to dust off your trigonometry books that I'm sure you have laying around. There you need to go find pages referencing trigonometric functions. The short version, the easy hack version that math nerds use, is called a unit circle. So with a unit circle, the circle represents a unit of 1, so that makes your hypotenuse constant. Then you use Pythagorean's theorem to plot out x and y axes, giving you that right angle to form a triangle. And it's a quick formula if you just need to find at least angles 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. Remember, we only have to focus on the 0 to 90 degree angle. That's the simplest way for you to solve these angle problems in the field.
No, wait! I was just fucking with you, Stan.
I'm just fucking with you, man. I don't do those calculations. Like, yeah, it's fun if you want to do a little bit of math exercise and do some Pythagorean's theorem. And, okay, you've got your angle distance. You know that you're on whatever floor of your building you're on, so you might multiply that by the height of your floors. And you get your adjacent, and then now you're calculating for your opposite. You can do a cool little math problem with Pythagorean theorem and figure out the flat line distance that way. But honestly, man, if I can figure out my angle in any way, even estimate my angle, I just look at my chart and I carry a cosine chart with me, and where I use my calculator, I hit the cosine function, or I have an angle cosine indicator that tells me what the cosine. I recommend you get one that has both an angle and a cosine, because you need the cosine to multiply your dope, but you need to know the angle in order to input it into applied ballistics. Other tricks is you just break out your map and you just measure the flat line distance from your building to the building you're shooting at, and that'll give you accurate flat line distance, obviously. Another cool trick is if I got my laser rangefinder and like the guys at the front of the building, I don't want to do any math whatsoever, and then I just point at the floor that's immediately across from where I'm at, and that'll give me obviously the straight line distance from my building to their building. Alright, plot twist. One last FU. Don't throw away that hypotenuse just yet, because you know how I told you, you only need to calculate the flat line distance, the adjacent, to get that short distance. Well, that's only for range. For your wind table, for your wind call, you still need to use that hypotenuse, because that bullet, even though it's only being affected by gravity for that flat line distance, it's being affected by the wind for that entire hypotenuse. So, just a little twist to F up your day. Alright, man, I know that was a long way around just to give you the short of it. I went through a whole bunch of math, but ultimately, man, I just use those hacks. I use my map, I use the angle cosine indicator, I use a ballistic calculator, or I just point my laser rangefinder at the other building and I get a nice flat distance from me to them, and I go with that. So, anyway, keep the questions coming in. If you have anything else you want to go over, if you want to do some practical exercises, let me know in the comments and I'll make a video just for you, man. Alright, keep training.